Hey, today I want to talk to you about resilience. Really, resilience is defined as the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties or, going through toughness. And really, today's talk was inspired by you, inspired by the individuals who have chosen to stand up and speak out for other humans. It is inspired by the collective who wish to make the world a better place. It is inspired by those I have watched it's inspired by those I have watched meet some really tough times with pure grace. So 2020 has been, please go ahead, insert whatever word you feel like resonates with you the most right here, right? So 2020 has been that or this. And while it has been challenging, to say the least, one thing that I saw shine through was resilience. So really, we had a narcissist for president. We had and still are navigating our way through a pandemic. Some of us lost jobs, homes, loved ones, and a giant spotlight was shined upon the systemic racism of this country. So if you are in the US, which for many was really freaking uncomfortable, and we had to deal with, or we still have to deal with, our own shit so that we can do better. And really, last but not least, we also had freaking murder hornets, right? So just, add the cherry on the sundae. But really, again, resilience is defined as having the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties. But whoever came up with that word obviously did not have 2020 in mind, because 2020 for many of us left no room to breathe, right? You'd recover from one thing to be hit with the next. And I am now redefining resilience as surviving 2020, right? This means if you are standing up, if you are watching this video, if you are able to scroll on Instagram right now, you are doing great. Now, if you're like, yeah, Angela, I'm here, I'm standing, I'm scrolling, but I am barely hanging on, I would love to share with you a few, well, maybe a little more than a few tips for moving onward and upward, right? So to really hone in on the power of your own resilience. So there are 7 skills of resilience, or they're also known as the principles of resilience. And principle 1 is cultivate a belief in your ability to cope, right? So know that you are going to be able to bounce back. I know, again, all of these are going to be a practice, especially if you've never done it before. But maybe right now, think to a time that seemed really hard, really difficult. And I want to show you that you got through that, right? You got to the other side of that. So remember that you are always able to cope. Principle 2 is stay connected with sources of support. So last week I talked about Sangha, which just means community, right? And so our community and our friends are a great place for support. Our family is a great place for support. So we can always go there, but know that sometimes it needs to be more than that, right? Sometimes our support system needs to be going to the doctor. Maybe it needs to be going to therapy. Maybe it needs to be hiring a coach, right? Sometimes we need more. And I'm going to use the example of someone that I know. They said it's okay if I share this example. But they have been through a lot, right? Like I am talking like 90% more than the average human being of traumatic events that they've gone through. And they have never seen a therapist. And she states that her friends just know her so well. But I just want to point out that, right, these friends that she's hanging out with, she's known her whole life. They've lived in the same city their whole life, right? So they're in this very small bubble with, even though they all have educations, they're very smart, they're very kind and wonderful people, right? They don't have a perspective outside of their bubble, right? So they're there to support this person, right, my client, but they don't have all the tools necessarily to fully support them. So while they can be very helpful, right, this client needs to go outside of their friend group for additional support. Now, principle 3. So give yourself the opportunity to talk about what you're going through, or even journal what you're going through. Don't be afraid to share your experience. I know that some of us feel like we're bothering others when we talk about ourselves or what we're going through, but talking about it helps us work it out. And there's a difference between complaining or whining about everything or literally just talking it out. And if you don't feel comfortable with that, that's where journaling or writing is a great option. Now, principle 4 is be helpful to others, right? It can be very rewarding and empowering to help others, especially during hard times. When we see that we can make a difference and reduce someone else's pain, it reduces our own feelings of helplessness. It enhances our sense of control in the world, which helps protect us from feeling overwhelmed. It's important not to rely only on this principle and to not help others to the point of burning yourself out, though, right? We've talked about this before with the doshas, right? Doing too much, going too far where you get a vata or pitta imbalance. So make sure that if you are helping others, though, you are also keeping your own batteries charged. Now, principle 5 is activate positive emotion. So just simply find things to do that will bring you joy and make you laugh. Practice gratitude. And again, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can be a dance party in your living room. It can be petting your dog. It could be watching a funny TikTok video or a cute animal video, whatever is going to make you feel a little more joyful inside. Principle 6 is cultivate an attitude of survivorship. So the more we focus on feelings of helplessness, the more we feel victimized. The more we focus on being survivors, the most we will activate our inner strength and create a narrative that we can proudly carry into life. So, right, it's really like looking at the glass half full rather than half empty. Now, the last principle, principle 7, is seek meaning. So whatever your belief systems are or are not, you can still find a sense of meaning in all of the hardships we are enduring right now. Start by considering existing beliefs and sources of meaning that you have. You might believe something like, I can learn from something from everything, right? And this is something we break down further in my mindset coaching program. We won't get into that here, but just see when we seek meaning, right? It is the little things, you know, those of you that think very logical, right? You're like, and I just experienced this with a friend the other day, right? They can be like, well, really, you could take away whatever you want from a psychic or a tarot card reading, or like, you know, someone always thinks 11:11 means something. It doesn't freaking matter, right? If it makes you feel better, and if you can relate 11:11 to something good, or if you can relate anytime you see the color green, something good, right? If that gives you deeper meaning, by all means, do it, right? So don't overcomplicate it. Give yourself a break. And again, know that you are resilient. You are way more resilient than you even think. And just looking back, like a simple example is looking back on the last year and the fact that you are still here, you are still standing, right? Even if you're struggling, even if you're dragging, right, you are resilient and you are going to bounce back. And like I said, if you are barely hanging on right now, go ahead, put into play these 7 principles that we just went over. All right, guys, I will talk to you again soon. Bye.